chapter. So this is the 11th Banquet, and it's been 11 years since I started FFA here at IMS. So it's been a long time since I've been back, but it's good to be back. FFA has played a big role in my life. From freshman on, growing up in an agricultural community here in Kelowna in the Wellman area, it's something that stays with you. I think coming from that, just growing up in an agricultural community is important. And you'd be surprised how much of the country does not have that privilege, and you really start to see that when you leave IMS and you start to go out into the world and into your universities or college, wherever you guys may go, you'll start to see how much of a privilege that is, and just to have that background. So after I left IMS, I went to Iowa State, got my undergraduate degree in agricultural systems technology, and then I stayed there and got my master's in industrial and agricultural technologies. They like to put big names on things and make them sound good, I guess. So, but anyway, so I'm currently still at Iowa State. I'm a full-time research staff for the university, and so that I work full-time there, and I do work with advanced engineering and equipment research for AGCO and Case and John Deere and those big name, kind of your big three manufacturing companies. And so tonight I kind of want to touch on, what FFA can do for you guys, and specifically talking to the front two rows, and what FFA can do for you guys and where it can take you, and where we're headed. Not just as an FFA chapter, or small kids from a small town. Where agriculture in general is headed. I've got to see firsthand a lot of this stuff develop over the course of my career, both in college and starting to work. And so I'd like to recite for you a couple words, which I'm sure you all know very well. I believe in the future of agriculture, with a faith born not of words but of deeds, achievements won by the present and past generations of agriculturists, and the promise of better days through better ways, even as the better things we now enjoy have come to us from struggles of former years. Many of you have recited these words, I'm sure, at meetings or even for FFA contests. And this is the first verse of the FFA Creed. And I can't imagine what E.M. Tiffany imagined in 1930 when he wrote these words. I can't imagine what he envisioned the future of agriculture to be. But my guess is we have far surpassed his wildest dreams of where we would be today. The world of agriculture is no longer just corn and beans and pigs and cattle. The world of agriculture encompasses so much more, and the new technologies that are starting to be developed and come down the pipeline is what you guys will be the forefront of. You are the ones that are going to be working with these technologies and taking them to the next level. My work at Iowa State, my master's work at Iowa State was with cellulosic ethanol, and so we're using corn stalks to make ethanol. And so, 10 years ago, nobody even heard of cellulosic ethanol, and now all of a sudden it's a multi-billion-dollar business coming to central Iowa with several different companies, and now there's a market for your corn stalks, which never used to exist. And so there's just all these new technologies coming down the pipeline, which you guys are going to be a part of. And so it's been really neat to see how the things that I've learned in the past have still been able to apply to the things that I do now, from doing welding contests and speaking contests and Harley Pro and FFA contests throughout districts and state. All that still comes into play when you get into college, and public speaking in general has still been a big part of what I do at the university, not only with students, but also a lot of recruitment work at the university. I got very involved in the College of Agricultural Ambassadors, so we travel around the state doing recruiting events, and all of that came from FFA and my passion for agriculture and wanting to share that with other students and get them involved. And so I encourage you guys to branch out and do things like that when you get to college as well. But all of my background in ag and with FFA has played into my position at the university now. And so what I do is I manage our research at the university for these big name manufacturers. And so what we do is basically technology development projects. So we're working on stuff that's 4 to 5 years down the road coming with agricultural technologies. And, it's not, driving a tractor isn't what it used to be. Now there's computers and screens and, lots of buttons, and the tractor drives itself, and you're more so just monitoring it than you are actually driving it and actively steering the tractor. And so, those things are, that is the future of agriculture. Computers and electronics and data management is the future of agriculture, and that's what you guys are going to be the main driving factor behind that. So, I work with more computer software engineers than I do mechanics anymore. I spend more time on a keyboard than I do turning a wrench. And 5 years ago, I would have never been able to tell you I was going to be typing and writing code for a living, and writing software on tractors. But that's where I'm at, and that's where the opportunities have presented themselves to go. And so I just really want to instill in you guys that the opportunities that you are going to see in the coming years are probably far beyond what even we can imagine now as far as where agriculture is headed. The technology today is leaps and bounds where we were 10 years ago or 15 years ago, and it only keeps continuing to grow, and it grows exponentially. And so just keep your eyes open to the opportunities that come your way. I never dreamed that I would have a master's degree, or when I was graduating from high school, I was looking at going to a 2-year tech school in Northeast Iowa for John Deere, and I wanted to be a mechanic. And finally got to Iowa State and found out, I really enjoy this stuff, and stayed on there. And it's just, I never sought any of this out. I just kind of, kept my eyes open and kept my heart open really to where I wanted to go and what was important to me, and what my strengths and my skills were, and just played to that. And everything I've done has been part of that. I found out what I enjoyed and what I was good at, and stuck with it. And that's really what's going to take you the farthest. Is if you're as lucky as I am to find out what you like to do and then figure out how to get paid for it, it's a pretty good deal. So, and I can't stress enough how much the future of agriculture is changing, and what you guys are going to encounter. I mean, from when E.M. Tiffany wrote that in 1930 to where we are now, I can't even imagine where we're going to be in the future. But it's all going to be you guys and your kids and the next generations after that. It's no longer just farming. Agriculture has grown outside of that, and it's started to incorporate the sciences. The science and technology of plant breeding and animal genetics, and the advanced precision agriculture technology. It's not, agriculture is not just farmers anymore. There's many people that fall into the agricultural category, and it all plays together to increase the productivity and the utilization of the decreasing land that we have, and making better choices with our farming practices. But yet, you only have so much land available, and you need to use that to the max. And so increasing the efficiencies is a big deal, and that getting the best out of what we have is what we have to work with. And it's a challenging task, but we've done very well so far. And now it's not just concerned with feeding the world, but fueling the world, and that's really kind of the next big thing that we've seen. Coming from the ethanol industry, corn ethanol has been around for a long time and been a valuable resource. And so now that new alternative technologies start to come online, that all play into agriculture as well. And it all stems from the ground. All this is made from the earth, and so that falls to agriculture to sustain those practices and continue them into their fullest. So, kind of a short and sweet speech. I guess I don't feel like I have a lot of old heritage knowledge or anything to pass on, but just keeping your eyes open to what comes your way. I can't stress that enough. I saw State FFA was in town this week, and so I had I think a dozen tours come through the farm that I work at Iowa State, and just seeing some of the looks on those kids' face when they tour our facility, and they're kind of like looking at their teachers like, what does this have to do with farming? And the fact is it has a lot to do with farming. It's more than farming. It's advancing the economy and the bioresources, and so hopefully I hope some of those kids took something away from that and got something interesting out of it instead of this is just another tour. But it's really cutting edge stuff, and hopefully you can realize that when you get the chance to go to conventions and see some of this stuff. Just keep your eyes open to what's out there. And so since I am from a university and there's kind of this teacher lecture nature of us at the university naturally, I do want to open it up for questions, because that is how, obviously, hopefully I have something to pass on that maybe I didn't touch on real quick here, but I do want to open it up for questions and what you guys see or anything that you'd like to know about what I do or what I've done. So.
What is the most interesting project you work on so far?
Well, everything I do is interesting, I guess, to me, so otherwise I wouldn't be doing it. But, we get to work with a lot of new technologies, and the group I work with specifically, we work with a lot of advanced technology and software and controls for different machines. But what that has allowed us to do is we're very applicable across platforms. So I've been able to work on sugarcane harvesters, cotton pickers, silage, forage harvesters, combines, hay equipment, and so for those projects I get to travel quite a bit. So I've been to Texas, Louisiana, Florida, California. I've been to all these places to work on these different machines, and so it's a far cry from the corn and beans of central Iowa to be in the sugarcane field in the middle of South Texas in January when it's 98 degrees and 20 miles from the Mexican border, and you're in the middle of a sugarcane field. Sometimes you have to stop and think, like, how did I get here? Like I never could have imagined that I'd be working on that kind of stuff. And so the variety of agriculture that I've been able to experience through Iowa State and through my job has been incredible. I could have never imagined when I was graduating high school in 2007 that 6 years later, 5 years later, I'd be traveling around the country working on cotton pickers and sugarcane harvesters. And it's just something that you don't really think about, but to me it's fascinating to learn about new industries and new crops and see how that crosses over with the stuff we do here in the Midwest.
Do you ever see ethanol passing gasoline as a primary energy source?
That's a good question. So I think our nation is very much fueled by gas and petroleum products, and I don't think ethanol won't replace gasoline, but it'll just be a substitute to it. So I don't think people say ethanol's the answer. I don't think ethanol's the answer. I just think it's the next stepping stone to something greater. And so I think we haven't figured it all out. I don't know if we ever will figure it all out, but anything we can do to decrease our dependency on foreign oil and fossil fuels in general, and start to make more sustainable energy, that to me is always a if you can take corn stalks that most farmers till into the ground and turn that into fuel that people can use to either power their homes or power their cars or whatever they may need, and that means you need to process one less shipload of oil a year or several shiploads over several decades. To me that's a win. And the plant I've worked with in Nevada, that's 30 million gallons a year of ethanol from corn stalks coming out of central Iowa, and just that in itself is amazing. That we've come that far just in 3 or 4 years. And so to me, I think there's a future there, and I think we'll continue to learn and continue to get better at that, and find new opportunities. Maybe depending on what the next technology to come along is, I think there'll be more alternative energies that we take away from that. And I think that anything, there's a lot of talk about alternative energy and biofuels and that kind of stuff in the news, and I don't know of a single one that isn't somehow related to agriculture. Maybe besides the solar and the wind, but all those solar plants and wind farms and stuff are all being placed on agricultural fields or around agricultural fields, and so it still has an impact there. And so agriculture is involved in any form or manner is involved in the biofuels world. You guys are easy. So usually, if I'm teaching a class at Iowa State, I get all kinds of questions. So, I really just want to really instill that in you guys that I can't predict the future. I'll never be able to do that, and I don't know what's coming down the pipeline. But all I know is it's going to be different, and it's going to be new, and it's going to be you guys. So.
When you said you were using corn stalks to make ethanol, if you're taking the corn stalks off the fields and stuff, is that taking away from nutrients that are going back into the ground?
That's a very, very good question. One that I've been asked many a times, and that I think many of people have wondered about. Obviously, when you develop any kind of new technology like this, you want to make sure that it's sustainable and that you're not doing harm to future generations. Obviously, we don't want to reproduce the Dust Bowl. That's not our intent at all. But as we've grown this industry and progressed, that's why these companies have partnered with Iowa State and other research institutes throughout the country and throughout the Midwest. That they, as large corporations, they want to make sure what they're doing is sustainable and not harmful to the environment. Because obviously, a little bit of bad press goes a long ways, and so they have been very, very conservative about their approaches to harvesting corn stalks. And if you do a little bit of math, from our research at Iowa State, if you have 200 bushel corn or somewhere in that average, you're going to be anywhere from 4 to 5 tons of stover to the acre. And due to some USDA studies and our studies at Iowa State, with the agronomists, you need about 2 tons left on the ground to be sustainable, to maintain your organic matter and control your erosion. And so that really leaves you with 2 to 3 tons to play with as far as excess. And a lot of guys, they're making 3 to 4 tillage passes a year to incorporate that material into the soil to decompose it for the next year's crop. And so if you remove some of that stover, that could be 1 less tillage pass you make, or maybe 2, depending on your cropping practices. And then you also see agronomic benefits as far as less nitrogen tie-up and quicker warm-ups in the spring and that kind of stuff. And so that's a very good question, and it's one that we've asked ourselves from day one when we started these projects. Is sustainable energy needs to be sustainable, and so if you're doing long-term damage with anything you're doing, then obviously you're not very sustainable. So it's been something that we've worked very diligently very hard at, to make sure that we are sustainable and we are creating a bioenergy that has no long-term effects and very little effects, if not benefits, to the already current cropping practices. So yeah, very good question.
You've been doing most of your work with the largest water whales on the county?
Yes, sir. We've done some of that. There's multiple ways to harvest corn stover. When you are harvesting corn stover, the biggest thing is it has to be graded. So just like you haul corn to the elevator, they grade you on the dockage and any foreign material, any broken kernels and that kind of stuff. Same thing goes for stover. It's the same way we grade it on 2 things: moisture content and ash. So it's basically how dry your material is and if there's any dirt in it. And so there's been several advances in the harvesting processes to try and decrease the amount of moisture and the amount of dirt that goes into this material. Basically, because any dirt in the bale is waste. You know, you're hauling that dirt around, you're storing that dirt, you're taking that dirt to the plant, and then you've got to haul it back out of the plant when it's clean. And so we have done work with, you know, balers behind combines and different shredders, and you know, you name it, we've tried it. And so there's a lot of new technologies coming from this work in cellulosic ethanol that will, you know, possibly play into other sectors of harvesting, you know, back to the hay equipment and that kind of stuff. And so the combine with the baler is a big project that we've worked on at Iowa State in conjunction with AgCo. They do have production units, you know, out on the market now that specifically for some of these ethanol plants. And so it's always something new. And if you can dream it, you know, we'll try it probably if we think. But you raise a good point that in the technologies developed for the not just the ethanol industry, but obviously all this work is done at Iowa State University. And so from that, we're able to, you know, once our work is done with our industry partners, we're able to produce extension documents. And so everything that we do is actually, you know, public knowledge here, you know, after the time limit has expired for the industry. But everything we do is public knowledge then, and so obviously extension documents and everything to help, you know, just local guys who want to harvest, you know, stocks for their cows or, you know, stocks for bedding or whatever. If they want to do just a little bit better job at that, they can, you know, refer to Iowa State extension documents that we've produced out of this research and increase their, you know, maybe they don't really care about it, but, you know, they can read it and just do a little bit better job, and that'll help them as well. So they might not be selling to a corporate entity or to an ethanol plant, but, you know, they can improve the practices in their operation just with that. All right, so maybe I've bored you long enough. I'll turn it back over to these guys. It looks like they have a lot of awards to hand out here, so we'll keep rolling.